All right, our last topic for this week is going to be really kind of a neat topic, I think. It's a little bit different than what the other videos have gone over. We're going to talk a little bit about prions. All right, prions kind of go against everything in biology that we know and have accepted for a very long time, because prions are an infectious protein. All right? Typically, when we talk about traits and inheriting traits, we're talking about needing to use genetic material. Either RNA or DNA can serve as that genetic material. This is what goes against the grain with prions, and why for a very long time a lot of people did not accept the idea of prions, because it's an infectious protein. It's not based on nucleic acids. And in terms of that, prions are kind of in the chapter here with viruses. Prions are not considered a virus either. They're kind of their own unique category, all right? And where you've probably heard about prions in the press is with mad cow disease, because mad cow disease is caused by an infectious protein, all right? It's caused by a prion, all right? And what happens with prions, I'm going to draw kind of a protein here, all right? And if we say this is the normal three-dimensional conformation that that protein should be, all right, what happens, all right, is that protein essentially gets misfolded. It doesn't form properly. So it's got a different shape, okay? And in terms of those prions, all right, it's essentially a defect in protein folding. So our three-dimensional shape is disrupted, all right? And in terms of that, once you've got a protein that's folded abnormally, it can cause other proteins within that cell to fold abnormally, all right? And that's kind of how prions propagate. It's a little bit different. And in terms of that, it still isn't really well understood what triggers that change, that conformational change from normal to abnormal, okay? But in terms of that, the prions are going to be an infectious protein. And in terms of where things started, it started with a disease known as scrapie in sheep. All right? So essentially what happened is farmers noticed they had sheep that were kind of exhibiting some strange behavior, and eventually they ended up dying, all right? Now it used to be that animals, if they died like that, were essentially used as feed for other animals, okay? Because prions are infectious, that sheep that died from scrapie, if that tissue from that sheep is fed to another sheep or fed to a cow, that's going to pass on that prion protein and pass on the disease, okay? So the disease really originated in sheep. What happened is those infected sheep, those sick sheep, were fed to cows, and those cows then ended up also suffering from the misfolded proteins. And that was what is classified as mad cow disease. All right. In this case, the cows end up again exhibiting behavioral defects. They'll run into walls, they'll bang into things. This is also referred to as bovine spongiform encephalitis. You'll see that abbreviated BSE. BSE and mad cow disease are one and the same. All right. So scrapie, those sheep were fed to the cows. The cows ended up developing the disease. It was classified as bovine spongiform encephalitis or mad cow disease. All right. Those cows, again, if you eat meat, that's going to be the source of the meat if you have a big steak. All right. In terms of that, those sick cows then, in terms of being slaughtered, if the cow was slaughtered before it exhibited symptoms of mad cow disease, that prion was still there and still present. And that then was passed on to the human population. And it's easier for me to abbreviate this. All right. It's CJD, which stands for Creutzfeldt Jakob disease. All right. So in this case, we're talking about the human population being impacted. All right. So those sick sheep were fed to the cows got sick, the sick cow was eaten and consumed by humans got sick, okay? But in terms of that, typically what we're talking about with prion diseases they're what's known as neurodegenerative, all right? So essentially where the protein misfolding is happening is going to be in neural cells or nervous cells. That's why you see the behavior issues associated with things like scrapie, mad cow disease, and Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, all right? So these three are kind of related to one another. There's another prion disease also known as Kuru, all right? Now in terms of that, I'm not sure as far as the origin, but my best guess is probably the prions are the same, came from the same origin as the prions that infected the sheep, all right? Kuru was actually found within a population of people in New Guinea, all right? And what was unique about this particular population is they were cannibals. So in order to honor their dead, their way of honoring their dead was to eat them, all right, to consume them. And what happened with Kuru, if the brain was infected with the prions, that then got passed on when that brain was eaten by those relatives or people within the tribe, all right? So in terms of Kuru, all right, again, it's infectious. It again is associated with neural tissue, all right? The reason why I think there may be some differences between what we're talking about with scrapie, mad cow, and Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease is one of the unique characteristics with Kuru is within the tribe or the community, it became known as the laughing disease or the laughing sickness. Because essentially when those folks reached end stage of the disease and those proteins were all abnormally folded, they laughed uncontrollably. Okay? So in terms of that, Kuru is a little bit different from the other three. But in terms of prions, I wanted to make sure to cover these because these are really kind of, it's different as far as its transmission. And it goes against what we really have been teaching you in biology long term. All right? So there's stuff out there that exists that we are finding all the time. All right? So in terms of that, if you have any questions about this, please let me know. All right? This ends our videos for this week. Next week, our videos are going to cover specific viruses and how they're transmitted. All right?